Hello, America.
Good evening, good evening. Welcome to KQ. I'm Ken.
I'm Kevlon. We're back at you for another edition. This one will be somewhat short, but we definitely had to swing back around. We talked about in detail a lot of different ways that Democrats and Republicans are different. And we mentioned things like, I think, healthcare. Um, you know, we mentioned several topics and we went through some charts. You can go back and review it if you want, but we forgot one major thing, and it just dawned on me on the way home that day. I said, Ken, we have to talk about how the Republicans deal with debt. So it is time for us to let's say, call a spade a spade. We're going to take a look at what has happened over the past, let's see, how about 30 years or so. Take a look at what's been happening in the realm of deficit spending. Of course, everybody knows that deficits are is the imbalance. It's basically what we bring into the treasury every year versus what we pay out. That's the deficit. That's the annual deficit. Each year, as the deficit happens, it contributes to our national debt. So the debt is the total amount that we owe aggregated over all of our history. And so we're going to just take a quick gander at that.
All right. Throw up the charts.
All right. So starting with Bush 1, as you can see, the deficit increased under Bush 1. Notice what happens every single time a Democrat comes in.
Clinton comes in, boom, fall all the way down. And not to mention, Clinton came on in there, and that was for the first time we didn't have a deficit. We actually had a surplus. Then comes Bush 2. Wow.
Yep. And Bush came in and said, we got a surplus. It means you're paying too much tax. I'm going to fix that. So he went to town. He did that huge tax cut. And all of it, mostly all of it, went to the top 1%. So that's what they do. They come in and they lie to you. They tell you that they're going to cut taxes on every American. So you're going to get this huge benefit. Whereas in actuality, the money goes straight to the top, straight to the richest 1% of people, corporations. Like 1 in 4 corporations don't pay anything in taxes. The average amount of taxes that a billionaire pays is 3%. How would you, regular hardworking American, like it if the federal government allowed you to walk away paying 3%? That would be extremely beneficial to you. I'm sure you could buy more things and feed your family and put food on your family, like George Bush said.
Yeah.
But
let's back to the charts over here. So then, by the end of this of the Bush 2 era, something very strange happened. I don't know if y'all remember the Great Recession, but yeah. So when Obama takes over, boom, we're at a crazy at the time, kind of an all-time high. Well, what does Obama do? He works it out over his 8 years and brings it all the way back down to a very normal, very, very normal pace. Then all of a sudden, Trump takes in, ding, 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 ding.
Before Trump, another thing that happened during the Obama presidency, right around the time where Trump was running, if you go back and look at any clips, any Fox News clips, any clips of the presidential candidates on the right, what they were saying, you will notice that they were screaming bloody murder. They were talking about how terrible the economy was, how terrible Barack Obama was doing. In actuality, that was during Barack Obama's presidency, that was the longest sustained job growth that America had ever sustained, had ever experienced, rather. So the thing is, they want to paint the Democrats as having the same flaws that they do. They spend money like crazy, and then they blame the Democrats for things that aren't even happening, so that they can get reelected. And it worked for Trump. And as soon as Trump gets in,
Cuts those doggone taxes, boom. And what happens? Oh, the deficit shoots through the roof. That along with
they
COVID.
told you when they cut these taxes here that it would cause just enormous growth and it would trickle down to everyday ordinary Americans, but it all went to 87% of those tax cuts went to the top 1%. And the tax cuts on people that we received, the little chunk change that we got, those expire in 10 years from that date. So they'll be gone. And for corporations, they're permanent. So, and so this is just how they do. This is how it happens every time. The deficit decreases under Democrats. The deficit increases under Republicans. That's just how they work. And this chart, of course, is federal budget as a percentage of our GDP. Which is how you measure it. The stronger your GDP, the higher you can tolerate deficits. The better toleration you have of deficits, the more money you make, obviously. So why do Republicans do this? There's a very poignant explanation, and it's called the two Santa Claus theory. This was something that was developed by Jude Wanniski. He recognized that the Republicans were coming off as Scrooges because they didn't like things that the American people like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. They don't like those things because they don't like for money to go to the people at the bottom and in the middle class. They like it to go to the top. And so they basically said, well, how can we continue to do what we do, send money to the top, and continue to bash all of these programs when the Democrats are being viewed as Santa Claus? So they said we need to have a two Santa Claus theory. We don't want to look like Scrooge in the face of Democrats looking like Santa. We want to pretend like we're Santa Claus as well. So what they do, and it showed in the chart. I'll just read it from here. First, two Santa strategy dictates when Republicans control the White House, they must spend money like drunken sailors, like drunken Santa, and cut taxes to run up the U.S. debt as far as possible. This produces three results. It stimulates the economy, thus making people think that the grand old party can produce a good economy. It raises debt dramatically, raises and increases deficits, and thus it raises debt. And it makes people think the Republicans are the tax cut Santa Clauses. Second, when a Democrat's in the White House, Republicans must scream bloody murder about the national debt as loudly and as frantically as possible, freaking out about it, how our children will have to pay for it. We have to cut spending to save, to solve this crisis. We have to cut. And they end up like Bush 2 ended up trying to privatize Social Security under this same format. So this forces Democrats to consider and sometimes do to make adjustments in social safety net programs like Social Security, thus shooting their welfare of the American people, Santa Claus. So they come in, they do massive tax cuts, and under that guise, of course, when they send money to the top and spend money like drunken sailors, when you pump money into something, it can give the illusion that everything is perfectly fine and that the economy is booming. But then when the Democrats come in power, they go, "Wow, look at that
debt." That's their own debt, but they blame the Democrats the whole way.
Yes.
Look at that debt. We gotta cut spending, or we're not passing any bills whatsoever unless y'all cut spending. We will not even join in this game and even pass a bill unless y'all are cutting debt. So they go in and they try to cut debt. Where do they always try to cut it from? Social savings net. Yeah.
Yep. That's how they do. And sure enough, here we are now with a Democrat in the White House. Following two Santa Claus strategy, Republicans are again squealing about the national debt, refusing to raise the debt ceiling, imperiling Biden's economic recovery, as well as his Build Back Better plans. So he had things, and he did get a lot through. Infrastructure bill, the American Rescue Plan, the CHIPS and Science Act, the PACT Act for our veterans. But of course, they scuttled Build Back Better, which would have been a huge boom to this economy and to our infrastructure. It would have been, just probably, I don't know how many more jobs, but good paying jobs, green economy, So instead of doing that, they scream about the debt that they ran up, and you don't get anything from it. And then what happens on our side, I say our side, those of us who like middle class people, they'll sit back and say, well, Biden didn't do anything because the Republicans have blocked everything. They just don't understand how government works and how the Republicans literally stand in the way and block progress over and over for middle class and lower class people. The numbers speak for themselves. And I hope our explanation was pretty clear. I definitely encourage that you check out Thom Hartmann and how he explains the two Santa Claus strategy. If you type in two Santa's strategy, Thom Hartmann, you'll get it and take a read it for yourself, and look back at what has happened over the recent history and what has happened with the deficit and the debt by president, and look at what were they saying during the time where they were decreasing taxes for the rich, and what were they saying when it was time to raise the debt ceiling. Democrats spend too much money, so they try to make Democrats kill their Santa. So take a look at it, and of course, like and subscribe. Pass us along to your friends. And we're out.
All righty. Have a good evening, everybody. We love you. We love you.
Peace.
Like and subscribe.